Happy Father's Day, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Half a Clue. I'm Blake.
I'm Jason.
I'm Miles.
Ron.
Today we're going to be talking about Oldboy, very famously a family-friendly movie, the kind of movie you want to watch with your dad, the kind of movie you want to watch with your siblings. You just want family around when you watch it. That's the lesson here.
Fun
Only
for the whole family.
If you live in Alabama.
Especially if you live in Alabama, It'll definitely appeal to you a little bit more. But yeah, for real, we are here to talk about Oldboy, kind of a classic. But first, let's talk about what we've been watching. Miles, you always seem to be watching something.
So this week I haven't really been watching much TV. I did watch a really shitty isekai anime that was actually surprisingly good. It's
Okay, so which is it then?
Is it really shitty or is it pretty good?
By being an isekai anime, it is inherently shitty, but it was surprisingly
What is
good.
that? What is the
So that's where
difference?
somebody dies in this world, usually by getting killed by like a truck or killing themselves, and then they get reincarnated magically into another world with a bunch of superpowers.
Okay.
Yeah, this one, it's called No Longer Allowed in This World, and it's about an actual like Japanese author, poet person who actually did exist in the real world and on multiple occasions attempted to commit suicide. And in this one, his attempted suicide is interrupted by getting hit by a truck. And now his goal in this new world that he is reincarnated into is to find his lover so that they can commit double suicide.
I was going to say to kill himself again?
Yes.
Okay.
So it is a whole journey of him going through this world and trying to die, but being unable to. It's actually quite funny. And yeah.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
What's it called?
No Longer Allowed in This World.
Okay.
It's a cool title.
Yeah.
Jason, do you watch things?
Sometimes. I've been still going through The West Wing, but I also started a show, Justified. Has anyone seen that?
I've heard of that show.
I've heard of it a lot. It's Walton Goggins and Timothy Oliphant, right?
Yeah. It's all right so far in the first season, but Walton Goggins is fucking awesome. He's carrying that show, and he's only been in one episode so far. So
I was going to say, I heard that, that seems like the show that really kind of propelled him more into like bigger audiences, like, and everything else.
yeah, no, it's because he's so fucking good.
Nice.
And everyone else is pretty good. I've never really been that big of a fan of Timothy Oliphant, but I guess he fits this role.
There's been a couple roles he's had that he's been really good in.
Yeah.
I've liked him Mandalorian season 2. I think he was actually really good in that. And then I don't know, they kind of like fumbled it in, of course, in Book of Boba Fett with a bunch of different things. But he was really good in that show. But he just kind of fit very well into that world as like a cowboy, kind of like
He did. I mean, he's playing a similar role in this where
Mandalorian
he looks
sucks.
good in that hat for whatever reason. The
First 2
cowboy
seasons.
hat.
It seems like he needs to
Agreed.
be in the right type of role for him, and then he's good, right?
Yeah.
And if he's able to fit in with the aesthetic of whatever movie or TV show it is, he does a really good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched a few movies actually recently. I rewatched the first Alien.
Nice.
I've not seen Romulus yet. I rewatched The Sandlot. It's just on TV. And something else. I don't remember what it was. Oh, Napoleon Dynamite. Just a very random pool of like things.
So I've got a question about Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
How has that movie aged? I haven't seen it since it came out, and I know that it was like very hyped back then and stuff. But do you think that it's aged well?
I think it's aged beautifully. I think
Okay.
really as like watching it when I was a kid. I was in middle school when it first came out, and I didn't quite get it, but I think just my humor hadn't really developed yet. Like there was stuff that like made me laugh, but like a lot of like the kind of, middle school humor. But like I watched it again when I got older, and even rewatching it now, even because it's been a while, it definitely holds up, and it makes me laugh more now, I think, than it did back then. So I don't know. I love it.
Yeah, I haven't watched it since I was a kid, and I didn't really like it that much when I first watched it. So maybe I should give it a rewatch as an adult.
I want to see Jared Hess do more. Like,
Yeah, and I think like with our modern cringe culture, as you might call it, that kind of, it seemed like it was one of those movies that was a forerunner to that.
yeah,
know?
it was definitely ahead of its time,
Yeah.
I think. And I think Nacho Libre I think got a lot more popularity and everything because it does have a more like normal narrative, like a linear narrative. Like, you know, he's got a goal.
Also,
he's trying to reach that goal.
Jack Black is a big pull.
Oh yeah. But like Napoleon Dynamite, I think again, as a kid, it's kind of like a character study really more than it is just like a straightforward. There's no straightforward plot. They're just kind of, you just watching all these weird characters just living in this like small town. And again, appreciating it a lot more now as an adult rather than when I was a kid where I'm just like, what's the point? Like, what's going on? Like, you know, there's no direct point. It's just seeing these people live their lives, and they're just very interesting characters. Uncle Rico's my favorite.
Yeah.
he's so good. Hey man, you think I could throw a football over the mountains? That's like my favorite line in the movie.
Well, you've definitely convinced me. I want to watch this movie again now.
Yeah, totally. Rewatch it. It's great.
In light of our discussion of Steve Jobs last week, I watched Trainspotting. I was in a Danny Boyle mood. It's been probably like a decade since I'd seen it. Like, I don't think I've seen it since I was like 17 or 18.
I watched it when I was like 12.
Probably shouldn't have done that.
No, I shouldn't have. I was like, what the hell is going on here? I did not understand it at all.
I'm happy to report it's still a very good movie. Something I think, like, because like I said, I watched it when I was 17 or 18. I don't think I quite grasped how much of a piece of a shit like the main character is of Trainspotting.
Yeah.
I think like watching it as a dumb kid, I was like, oh, you know, Ewan McGregor's character, like he's just kind of, you know, in a bad place, but it's not really his fault. Rewatching it as an adult, it's like, oh man, like he's kind of a huge piece of shit, as is basically every character in that movie. They're all just selfish, heartless junkies that, you know, lead to the death of a baby at one point.
Yeah.
But it's really good. It's definitely another one where the soundtrack carries it. Like that soundtrack in that movie is so fucking good. Mm-hmm. And it's got this weird, it's kind of what I really like about it is the weird balance that it's both very hyper stylized with the music and the visuals, but it's still very gritty and dirty. It's just a really cool juxtaposition between those two ideas.
That's kind of just like his style in general.
Yeah.
Though.
But
Yeah.
I think it shines a lot in that movie in particular. But yeah, fucking, I don't know. I love it. I'm going to have to watch Trainspotting too. I never really was that interested, but I'm kind of in the mood. Well, that's the name of the book, not the...
They should have named it
They
Porno.
should have named it... They're weak for not...
Well,
they're weak. They will
Cowards.
not survive the winter.
Of course they would name it Trainspotting too, because they were banking primarily off of people wanting.
Well, it's called T2 actually. It's called T2
Yeah.
Trainspotting. I think
Which
that's the
that
name.
bugged me because I'm like, okay, that's
Terminator
Terminator 2. That is the T2 that when you think of T2.
Maybe it's a remake. Maybe it's both a sequel to Trainspotting and a remake of Terminator 2.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of an interesting way to go about it.
Yeah, that makes sense if you don't think about it.
Trainspotting 2.
Trainspotting Terminator 2. Anyways, we should probably start discussing Oldboy. So me and the Ronald have seen it before, but Miles and Jason have not. So I guess we'll start with you two. How did you two feel about it?
It's just a wonderful, feel good, beautiful movie. No, it's fucking miserable. It's one of the most miserable movies I've ever seen. Very, very good.
Oh, spoilers, by the way, for this whole movie if you haven't seen
Yeah,
it.
if you have not seen Oldboy, please go watch it before you listen to this.
Yes, I am glad that nobody spoiled it before I got a chance to watch it.
I'm
It was
surprised.
spoiled for me because I watched the remake first.
Which we're going to talk about later.
So that's definitely coming at it from a different lens, right?
Yeah.
How did that influence your viewing of this film?
I mean, it was just everything that movie did, but better. I don't know. It was interesting because like the remake just wasn't good. Even not seeing like I didn't have that like, oh, the original was so good and the second one's gonna suck. I didn't have that going in. But it just wasn't a good movie in general. And now I hate it even more. But yeah, fuck that movie. This one was great. Mainly the thing that stuck out to me the most was the music. The music is absolutely incredible.
They used it very well within the movie.
Fantastic soundtrack.
Yeah, so this was my first time watching also Oldboy. For years now, I've had people encourage me, oh, you should watch Oldboy. You should watch Oldboy. I even have the 4K release that Neon did.
That's a great
Yeah.
freaking like box set, everything. The artwork on that thing is beautiful, man.
I think they released it last year, but I've had it and I've been intending to watch it, but I just like want to watch it with people.
Where'd you get it from?
I don't know. I think I ordered it off the Neon website, maybe.
Okay.
Or through a distributor, but yeah. I ordered it right when it came out because I was like, oh, I got to see this movie. But I've just had it and not watched it for a while now because I like watching movies with people, not really by myself. So, yeah, finally I get an opportunity where I can go through and watch it. And it did reignite my confidence in Korean movies. You guys know my feelings about the last couple Korean films that we have watched. I
cannot believe you put
fan
The
of them.
Wailing in the shit bucket.
The Wailing
cannot
is
believe you
so
did that.
fucking good,
That's
dude.
insane.
Yeah, but
Yeah. Anyways,
well, you know, I did like The Man from Nowhere. I will say I like The Man from Nowhere.
I can't believe you
but
like
this is
that more
better.
than The Wailing. I don't dislike The Man from Nowhere, but it's crazy that you like that more than The Wailing.
I don't know why I didn't like The Wailing. Maybe it's also
because you have bad taste in film.
yeah, partially that, partially because I'm just not a big horror movie guy. You guys know that.
Okay.
You know, if it's between watching
Spooky.
any other type of movie and a horror movie, I'm usually going to choose any other type of movie.
It's spooky. It's
Yeah.
spooky.
It's not
I think I think Oldboy, the movie you just watched, is more horrifying than any horror movie I've ever
I-
watched.
It's,
I will-
it's like a psychological horror.
Yeah,
sure.
if anything, I would honestly put this in a horror category, you know, a subcategory, but still it for me it fulfills the definition of what a horror film is trying to accomplish.
What, create a sense of dread inside of you?
Yeah, creating a sense of dread and then paying it off with visceral like consequences, which in this case, you know, spoiler alert, they're the psychological horror, which is deep and very poignant, to the visceral, like physical horror, which there is a good amount throughout. Even though a lot of it is technically off screen, you feel it, you know?
And I'm glad that it's off screen. I had to look away when the dude's teeth were getting pulled out. I was like,
Yeah.
Blake, just tell me when it's over. I'm not a fan of the dentist. I do not like mouth stuff. That was pretty nasty to me.
I thought you loved mouth stuff, dude.
You call this a horror movie? I consider it like a rom-com, you know? You're never gonna believe who falls in love. This summer, an unlikely couple comes together. That should be the advertisement.
Yep.
Yeah, someone please make a cut of this as a romantic comedy. Like that's the thing too, because like, okay, we're talking about Korean filmmaking. There is a lot of like, okay, first of all, Oldboy is probably the forerunner of Korean cinema. If you've never seen a Korean film, this is probably the one that is most put in front of your face because of like, watch it. It's a landmark. It's fantastic, but it has a lot of those similar traits that define Korean cinema. It's a lot of the graphic violence and everything, the mix of like tones where there's comedy there that like disarms you, and the emotional like depth and horror that is also in there too, which is it's fantastic, and beautiful cinematography too. It's
a lot of
gorgeous movie.
Also, like the theme of revenge. I've noticed there's a lot of Korean movies that really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Korean revenge movies typically tend to be pretty good from what I've seen so far.
Yes, and this is Park. Oh my God,
Park Chan-Wook.
Park Chan-Wook.
And you
I
call
wanted to make
yourself a
sure.
cinephile.
No, I wanted to make sure I didn't mess up the pronunciation. But this Park Chan-Wook, this is part of 2 of his revenge trilogy. So yeah.
Yeah, it's what is it? Lady Vengeance and
Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance.
which I've never seen either. I probably
Neither
should.
It's interesting. I've heard like an interview, I think, when he was asked about like which one he preferred for Sympathy or Oldboy. I think this was before he did his third film, and he said he has more like an attachment to Sympathy because it was a flop. So he was like, it's like an abused daughter. He's like, this is the film that like I attached.
Interesting choice of words.
Yeah, I know, right? He was like, oh, I feel more sympathy for that one because it's like, you know, it didn't do well and everyone kind of hates on it. But like, he's like, he's like, it's like his baby or whatever.
Filmmakers trying to not sound misogynistic when they talk about their movies challenge impossible.
Okay, so do you want to go into it? For me, one of the things I loved about this film was the color. the visuals of it, but like the visual storytelling, like specifically told through color, really stood out to me. The primary colors being used: green, red, purple, and ultimately white. And there's a lot of blue in there too, but using it for framing, thematically, and overall notes and everything were, I don't know, just were very striking. Because watching it the second time around, or yeah, it's probably my second time, it's like being able to really kind of hone in on that and see things that I didn't realize the first time watching it, which was many years ago, to be fair.
I think what I really like most about it is just the visual language of the film itself. Like, it's so gritty looking, and you really feel like you're in this like dirty underbelly of the city where shit like a fucking hotel prison can just exist for some reason.
Yeah.
Just how it's edited too. I really like the editing. It's a very, because the pacing of this movie is incredible. It's fast, but you never feel like it's too fast. And the editing is kind of the star in that and what makes it go so well.
Slick.
Like, I fucking love the scene where time is passing, and it's a combination of how he spends his time and the television, which is the only thing he's left with, kind of showing the real world passing time. Like, you see like 9/11 happen, you see different presidents being sworn in, you see like all these historical landmark moments happening on the TV screen to the right, and to the left you kind of see his miserable existence as he's like, you know, like practicing karate against the walls and shit.
Second week in a row, there's been a really good montage of time passing in a movie.
Yeah.
And very similar the way that they accomplished it as well.
Yeah, actually, you're kind of right. Big landmark moments being told on the news, basically.
Yeah, like I do like the also seeing like homages used from like other films too. Like in the Raid 2, there's a lot of nods to Oldboy, like with him, like again, like with the outline of the person as he's fighting in his prison.
Oh yeah.
So I think even the Hammer Girl in the Raid 2, which we should totally talk about.
Dude, we need
Raid
to.
2.
Yeah, I fucking
love
love
the
that
movie.
movie.
And
So good.
I want to mention about this movie. It seemed like with the music, it felt like a dance throughout a lot of the movie. It felt like the actors, you know, especially during the fight scenes, but also just when they were walking around places, it felt like they were dancing through the scenes almost, right? And that it was timed so well with the music that it felt almost like, you know, something you would go see on stage, like a ballet or something like that. I don't know, like, why I felt that way.
No, it does feel very
yeah.
seamless. Like again, like I think with the editing, with the performances, and the music, all kind of really, the movie just really flows very well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. It's just like going back to like the color stuff, man. I love the like, because most of the film has like a greenish tint to it, which I loved. There's like some aspects I saw like in a BTS photo where they were outdoors and they used like a green light to kind of like give a little backsplash to the main character, and that's like a good use for a tool later. And it's like more of like an advanced film technique where you can use that for editing later and everything to like help bring up those greens. It kind of adds to the gritty feel of it, and it makes the red used for like, you know, all the blood to symbolize for the different women, the two main women in the movie, which are usually highlighted by red, and to kind of like, you know, show like hate and like, you know, just the rage and revenge and everything. It really makes it pop that much more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the color red really started to take over in the later part of the film.
Oh yeah.
Just everything, even like the second hotel room they were in was all red.
Yeah.
It makes that like tonal shift there once like the end's coming to.
And purple being like the color of Woo Jin Lee, and like that being like his dominant color that is used throughout like the boxes.
Yeah,
even like other aspects, like things he's wearing, and like little hints, like when they're sitting in a room or something and you see a tinge of purple, usually means he's around somewhere.
I didn't notice that at first because I didn't understand the significance of purple, but I think I will pick up on that more the second time I watch through.
Yeah, and it does lead something to the ending, which I think we can talk about later. But yeah.
Something I did want to talk about too. Something I also really like about this movie. I like that the main character is kind of an asshole, actually. Like, he's not very likable. Like, the first time we meet him, he's missing his daughter's birthday because he's like drunk. And then I really like that detail that when he gets out, he's like, who could this have been? And he has like 6 guesses or something of like people he's allegedly pissed off so bad that he believes that they could lock him up for 15 years. And I don't know. I kind of like that fact that he's not a perfect guy. He is kind of flawed, and he is seemingly kind of like a douche, you know? Obviously, he doesn't deserve, this.
No.
But
Yeah,
it's just it's a nice detail. I like it.
It's ironic that this is the thing that he
Yes.
gets,
Yeah.
Punished for, when really he was just a kid and he didn't know what to do with the information that he
Yeah,
had.
it really wasn't that big of a deal what he did.
And also, he didn't understand the implications of the information. He didn't
Yeah.
know that,
No.
Who the people were that he was talking about.
He had
It
no
was
clue.
Other people who knew that.
But it is an interesting thought just to be like how small rumors can grow and like the saying where he says whether it's a grain of sand or a pebble or whatever, they all sink to the bottom. It's all even the tiny little thing that you think is not that big of a deal can balloon into something horrifying.
The moral of the story is never gossip, or you'll end up being locked into a prison for 15 years and manipulated into
Doing things that we'll talk about later.
There's also an interesting contrast from the original manga that this is an adaptation of. The main character in that one, he actually his point is that he's lived his whole life without interfering with like anybody's life. He's basically spent his whole life trying not to upset anybody or doing anything. He just prefers to be alone. So when he's in prison, he's trying to figure out who is doing this to him, and he has no clue. He's like, I have no idea who this could be. I don't bother anybody. It turns out who it is like, I don't want to spoil it in case anyone wants to read it, but it's almost a very tiny, another insignificant thing, which turned into like a much greater issue, obviously down the line.
Wait, is it a different ending to
It's
that?
totally different.
Okay.
But a lot of like the basic framing is similar, but also the manga is like way longer. It's like over 8 volumes or something. It's like super long.
Wow.
So it's a much more drawn out story about like, basically this guy is led down this very long rabbit hole trying to figure out
Is it?
what was the cause of this, and there's a bunch of other shit along the way apparently.
You'll be an old boy by the time you finish reading it. Oh,
Is it the same name? Oldboy also?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is Oldboy.
Yeah.
I have not read it, but I've kind of looked into it a little bit, and it's interesting. There's some very interesting differences.
Might be worth a read.
Yeah.
you can read.
Yes, I can read. I mean,
Very
English.
impressive.
I can't read any other languages, unfortunately, but English I can. So I'll have to go on like one of those websites that does all the translate stuff.
We should probably talk about the famous fight scene, the like one take hallway fight scene
yeah.
with the hammer. Probably one of the most influential action scenes of like the 2000s. I've seen that scene redone so many fucking times over the years in countless movies, whether it's homage or a ripoff or somewhere in between.
I'd say it's as influential to like modern filmmaking even now, like 20 years later, as The Matrix was for the
Matrix?
90s.
The
Like
Matrix.
the Matrix, brought like wire fu kind of action to like Hollywood and everything. And I think Oldboy brought that like gritty, realistic, like long take, and especially the hallway, which seems to be like
Yes.
Yeah, the hallway fight scene is like
Yeah.
a trademark of action movies now.
Yeah.
So I will say that's one of the scenes where I most significantly noticed the movie feeling like a dance, right? Because you can feel, him and the people that he's beating up flowing back and forth, right, as they're fighting and
Yeah.
spreading out and coming back together. And it's almost like waves.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Waves on a beach. And
He'll pull somebody in. He'll fuck them up or whatever, and then also like push everyone away by swinging and everything.
yeah.
good.
And I thought it was beautiful from an artistic standpoint. Just the choreography of that fight was simply fantastic. I don't think I've seen a better choreographed large scale fight scene in a long time.
I would say it's definitely like a forerunner for a lot of like other ones that have like taken that style and that idea, and I think have amplified it even more, like the Raid movies
Raid, yeah.
or even Daredevil.
Yes.
Like season 1, which really
And
like
season 2.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I forget.
And I think maybe season
They
3.
they have one every season.
They have one every season.
yeah. But I think Oldboy is like, it stands on its own though. Like it's still
Yeah,
fantastic.
well, it's the inception of this. Like it's
Yeah.
so influential, and like Jason said, that's just a hallmark of action movies now, is the hallway fight scene.
John Wick like is basically feels like that, but imagine if like he was
For
like
3 hours.
Yeah,
or
for
whatever.
3 hours, and he's like extra like highly trained and everything, and there's guns and shit, because you do kind of wonder like, why does anyone have a gun here? But you don't really think about it too long because it's
it's
just
a
so well
stylized
done.
movie, and it's fucking cooler that there's no guns and that he just has
Yeah.
a fucking hammer.
Yeah,
It's hammer time.
I do appreciate that it wasn't over fully designed. It didn't seem like they had a bunch of Foley artists just going and making like whoosh sounds and stuff like that. Like a lot of the more recent action fight scenes that I've seen really have a lot of those punch sounds just edited in.
Shit,
And-
really loud too.
Right,
Just
and
like
it's-
crunching sounds every 2 seconds.
and they sound good, but they kind of take you out of it. This, it feels like you're an observer. It doesn't feel like you're like in the fight, and I think that makes it feel better in a certain way.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and even with like the main character getting just more exhausted like as it goes out, because it's like if you ever sparred before, you are like, it's shocking how quickly like your energy just gets depleted, and you're just like, oh my god, it's only been like 2 minutes and I can't even like keep going here. But yeah, it's very impressive.
I do have one criticism I want to talk about. I've always felt like the daughter character, if someone can remind me of her name really quick.
It is Mido.
Mido?
Mido,
Yeah, I think it
yeah,
was Mido.
Me too.
I've always felt she was a little underwritten.
I think that was intentional though, because they wanted to leave an air of mystery about who she was as a person. Even so, the big twist at the end, I told Blake afterwards, like, yeah, I managed to call that like probably 3 or 4 scenes after they met. So the major twist about who she actually was. But I think that they didn't want to build her into a fully fledged person just because they wanted to have some mystery about her, and then maybe also make it so that like when you're putting yourself into the shoes of this main protagonist, right, you're able to project onto this second person whoever you feel like they are.
I could see that, where she is a bit more of a blank slate.
Yeah.
And if they dove more into her background or something, that it could have been pretty easy to kind of give away that twist
Yeah.
much easier.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they never showed her in the beginning. You never see her, do you? Like as a child?
No.
No,
You
yeah,
just hear her on the phone.
Not until
Yeah.
the end of the movie.
Yes. And that's different in the remake, right? You see the daughter. I don't remember that movie very well.
No, you don't see her till she's an adult.
Okay.
Same as
All right. Well, never mind then.
idiot.
I'm stupid. I'm a big dumb.
Yeah, I don't know. Perhaps it was on purpose. You guys sound like a guy at film school. No one had ever made a mistake on their short film. It's like, actually, that's intentional. I wrote this poorly on purpose.
I wasn't saying
I'm
it
not
was
saying
intentional, but
and I'm not saying it's
For a movie
written
this
poorly.
good, I
It's-
think you could.
Yes, I think
say
it's
it's
safe to
probably
assume
intentional.
that what Miles said is probably correct. But it's always been my one little gripe with this otherwise perfect movie, and it's always been in my head. And just you bring it up, and people like get mad at you that you dare criticize anything.
Get the fuck
ever.
out.
Yeah, I mean, we aren't getting mad at you. I think that
Leave.
no, it's
No, but
valid to
that's
have criticisms. Even if your criticisms are criticizing things that the filmmaker intended, I think that it's still valid to have criticisms because that's why we do this. Because
Basically, I hate the movie because of this thing, and it's a huge piece of shit. No, but yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to talk about that because it's my one little gripe I have with the entirety of the movie.
can we talk about Lee Woo-jin?
No.
we'll never talk
One
about
of
Lee Woo-jin.
one of the greats in terms of movie villains for sure.
Yes.
So well done, so well performed, so well written. He has his own, like you said, that purple. It's like it's always signifying he's around. You always feel his presence. Because this movie, in a way, is kind of like a cat and mouse game, right? Between the two of them. And seeing his side of it is pretty fucking intense.
Yeah, he's a very interesting character, and I think that he does a really good job at playing a real villain. They talk a lot about, sometimes like if you have a villain that's like a Dr. Evil villain, or like a lot of the Bond villains where they're just purely evil, right? where it's like, okay, it's hard to justify their actions and stuff like that. And it's still hard to justify his actions. But
Unlike him, he's just a great guy.
No, but you can see that
It's just misunderstood.
his perspective, he thinks that what he's doing is justified and right. And I think that,
I don't
that
know
makes
if
for
he
a better
does,
villain.
though. And that's kind of what makes him so interesting.
Yeah, I feel like
He knows what he's doing is very wrong.
I think he's like willing. He literally sacrifices his own life because he's like, you know what? I'm just going to dedicate my life to basically making this guy's life miserable. And then that's it. It's over.
But
you know?
he has like a reason behind that. A lot of villains don't have a reason. And I think that that's kind of what puts him apart. It's like, you know, he really feels strongly like he was wronged by this person.
Yeah.
You know, and because of that, he goes through whatever he can in order to make his life a living hell.
his entire character too is interesting because it's kind of like a double-sided revenge movie, right? It's two characters, they're both trying to get revenge on each other, and ultimately what ends up happening is they both basically just destroy their entire lives. Because this doesn't, I guess you could technically say the villain wins at the end of this, but fucking does he?
No.
Like, he seems pretty fucking miserable when he blows his brains out at the end.
Because he says, like, oh, you should try revenge sometime, you know, like it feels great. But it clearly does not. Like, he just goes in the elevator and is just bawling.
And
to
that's
himself.
my favorite scene in the whole movie is that elevator scene where he's imagining holding his sister over the railing.
Yeah.
And then it just hard cuts to his body, like slamming against the wall.
Yeah.
He just looks fucking miserable as this just bleeding to death.
Yeah. There's a lot of hand symbolism in this movie, too. I don't think we mentioned that, but there's lots of stuff about, you know, your hands. When he's tattooing, the other guy loses his hand.
The cover actually has a stylized hand on it of
Nice.
I thought that was an octopi.
I think
no, the
Well,
outer
there's
sleeve is an octopi.
the
The
booklet.
inner one, the booklet,
Octopus.
has a stylized of the severed
Pi is
hand.
plural.
Yeah, it's octopodes.
there's a
Octopodes.
Yeah,
Why can't we just settle on one?
I don't know because it's funnier this way.
Octopi sounds cooler. I know that that's the plural. It's just funnier.
I think Park Chan-Wook talked about how like hands being like particular the part where he's holding her over the dam was like that's like the you know the moment that sparks everything. Of course, that's the thing that like is the epicenter of all of this, and that's why like he like really wanted to focus in on the kind of the hand symbolism, I suppose, and him choosing to let her go. Because when I first watched it, I was like, why doesn't he just pull her up? He could probably pull her up, right? But no, he said that he chose to let her go. He could have pulled her back, but he didn't. So how does that make you guys feel?
Great.
You know, I always felt really weird about their relationship. Is it time,
What was weird about it?
Is it time to reveal the plot twists?
Oh yeah, no,
Okay.
family,
Okay.
inner family.
I think we've gotten to the point where
Boing.
Incest.
yes, incest, or as some people call it, wincest. I am not one of those people, but he is. Yeah, bad joke, but
It makes me feel great.
yeah, exactly.
This summer, you're never going to believe who falls in love.
No, but if you look at him, he's definitely very sociopathic in nature. You can tell by the way that he's manipulating events throughout this whole thing, right? He's definitely a manipulative person. And I think that he, even though he's like, oh, yeah, I just let her go, that's in his memory. I think he pushed her. I think he pushed her still. I think that he got rid of her. And I think
so?
that he just pretends like, oh, yeah, you know, this is what she wanted, right?
Yeah.
This is what she wanted because he tried to manipulate her into believing
Well,
that.
he
the
even
same
says
way.
that she thinks that she's going to be pregnant, so then she becomes pregnant. That's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's hardcore coping,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
It's like, no, dude, you knocked up your sister.
Exactly.
I do agree that I don't know necessarily that he pushed her if I believe that 100%, but I do think it's open-ended because it is very clearly, like you said, a memory, not a retelling, not an exact replica of what really happened.
I don't know. I feel like that's what happened. I feel like what we see is pretty much exactly what happened, where she was like, I'm going to let herself go. She's going to let herself go. And then he's like, no, don't do it. But then he chooses to let her go, which means that he is still a participant in it and that he can't cope with that exactly. So he decides to just blame everything, you know.
I can see that perspective as well.
Our boy Oedipus here.
But even to that extent, I don't think that the things that she said to him, I can't remember exactly word for word what she was saying as she was hanging there, but she was basically like telling him, "Oh, you're so good," and things like that.
Well, she's like, "Here, remember me." Takes a photo of herself,
and like and like she was doing it for him so that he could be happy, and it was about his happiness, and that was the reason why she was doing it. And I really don't believe that she actually said that. I think that might have been how he chose to interpret what she said.
I see that, but I also think it makes more sense for him to have let her go, especially if you look at like the scene where we actually show them, getting down.
Oh my god!
You put it so elegantly.
It's him who's like pushing the issue. He wants to go after her, and she's kind of like pushing him away, saying no.
But she's not really.
I mean, she's like batting his
no
hand
means
away.
no, Miles.
No, but she pulls out a freaking mirror and she's just watching, and she's like, "Yeah, let's do this."
Yeah, but I don't know. It
She's
felt
not
like he was
stopping
more
him.
of the aggressor in that situation, and it makes more sense for him as a villain, given like everything he was saying. Like as you said, he was coping. It just makes more sense to me as a viewer for all of it to really be his fault. He's the one who like initiated it. He's the one who let her go, but now he's blaming literally everything else other than himself.
Yeah, he's not blaming the people who were bullying his sister or like started like teasing her about it and everything. He chose the guy who just witnessed it and then like said something to somebody else. And he says it very passively too, like, "Huh, like I saw this thing. Is that like crazy?" And then like he wasn't like, "Oh yeah, she was a slut" or anything like that. He's just like, I saw her getting it on with this dude or whatever. And then that, of course, but he also makes a point of being like, that doesn't matter. I don't care what your intentions were. I don't care that you didn't like, whatever. It's like you fucked us over. Like, you caused the death of my sister.
Well, it wasn't his secret to tell. And
Yes.
You can see from that perspective. Like, let's pretend that it wasn't incest that he witnessed, right? That it was any other thing, and he tells a secret that then gives these people a bad reputation, right? But it wasn't his secret to tell, right?
Moral of the story:
Like,
mind your business.
Yeah, no. But if you were a person doing just normal things that resulted, I'm not saying that what they did was normal. I want to be very clear
just
about
everyday
this,
activities.
But I'm just saying, if the situation had looked slightly different, right, then him saying those things, that really wasn't his business to go and reveal it. And, he didn't have to live with the consequences of spreading the rumor. He was leaving.
Yes, he did.
Well, no, but he was made to feel
You're
the
saying he
consequences.
deserved it.
But at the time, he didn't have to feel the consequences. He
Yeah,
was leaving.
yeah.
So, what do you guys think of the ending? Because it seems like it's intentionally ambiguous whether the hypnotizing worked or not. Right, with his face basically becoming that painting that was in his wall. Like, does he actually remember? Does he not? Is he even if he doesn't remember, he doesn't look happy. So it's like, what do you guys think?
I really think that the more important question is, what does it say about him that he went to a hypnotist to go seal the knowledge that he had, right? Because was he saying that, oh, I just want to be able to live happy, basically screwing my daughter. Yeah. But he didn't want to remember it. He didn't want to have the guilt, right? So it was more so about him going to get the guilt taken away.
It does
and out of the
feel
situation.
like a selfish choice because the daughter doesn't know what's going on.
But does she? I think she might know.
I don't think she
I don't
does.
think she
'Cause that's
does.
the whole point of the fucking miserable, not last scene, but climax where
Him
he's-
cutting off his
where he
tongue.
cuts out his fucking tongue and is like barking like a dog.
She had the angel wings, though.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
she
but
never
doesn't-
got
but
them.
Those were just in that room.
She had no context for the angel wings.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
'cause-
don't know.
anything-
She put them on.
Yeah,
and
'cause she-
no,
to
but
wear them.
it really seemed like she kind of knew what was going on.
I don't
No,
think she
no,
knew.
I don't think she knows at all.
The proof was in that box that she never opened, right?
Yeah.
She never
opened the box.
And the only reason he told her not to open the box, or the only reason that Lee Woo-jin let him not them open the box was because he cut out his own tongue and he was degrading himself so much that he was like, all right, you got enough. Like, and he moves on, which is like the shred, the tiniest shred of humanity. Yeah. That he gives him is the option to like let the daughter not have to deal with this horrifying truth. But I think the ending though is it's interesting because it's the first time we see like the color of the snow, the white. There's like a very pure white blank setting, right? They're on like a snow-capped mountains, I believe somewhere in New Zealand, but I'm sure in the movie it's probably somewhere in Korea. But it's what I find interesting is I think that his subconscious, he will always know that there is something deeply wrong with his relationship with this girl because the sunset is very purple and they focus on the sunset. So it's a very purple sunset that paints this like beautiful white mountaintop. So it's like there's always going to be that like scratching away at his subconscious, whatever it is that makes him think like that makes him feel wrong and fucked up, even if he was properly hypnotized. There's something that's there that's never going to go away.
The shadow of Lee Woo-jin will always be with them.
Yeah.
I did not pick up on that, but that's fantastic.
I've seen this multiple times and I've never picked up on that either.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. No, that's a fantastic interpretation of the ending, I think.
I don't know, but I do love though like the mirroring because there's also a lot of mirror imagery throughout this, like looking at reflection. I think I heard someone describe it as like the fracture of yourself, like how you perceive yourself and everything else. But like, yeah, him, like, like it's one of the famous shots where he's just staring at the painting and he's just like, doing the smile back at it and him just becoming that, just like, I forget the naming of the painting, but it's like Man in Agony or something like that. And it's like, yeah, he's going to be in agony no matter what happens at this point. Like, the damage is done. Obviously he's not getting his tongue back, but like the psychological damage will never go away.
What did you guys think of? So the first time that, he goes and he finds the place where he was actually being kept for 15 years, you see all the cameras pointing at the rooms. Mm-hmm. And it's very obvious that basically the whole time that he was there, he was being watched and recorded, and he didn't know that. But for 15 years, almost the full 15 years, for the last 11 years of his stay there, he was digging a hole in the wall. And they were just letting him do it. And he thought he was being all clever and stuff and like hiding it and covering it up. Mm-hmm. What did you guys think of that? Kind of, they didn't really bring it up, but like, why do you think that they just like let him keep on going with trying to dig out?
That was probably Lee Woo-jin's instructions. I think if the hotel people, they probably would have tried to put a stop to it. I bet you they told Lee Woo-jin and he was like, no. Let him have hope.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's what it is.
Seen. Lee Woo-jin would have seen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because he had the direct feed to the video.
Yeah. I think it's exactly that. Like he wanted him to have some hope. The idea that he's going to get out eventually, just to crush it in the end. And also because how crushing it is it that like he was doing all that for nothing anyway because he was going to just let him out. Once he's like pretty much done, he's like, I'm going to be out like in a month. Yeah. And then it's like, doesn't matter anyway. You're already just flopped out there. And guess what? Your life is still going to be interesting. Mm-hmm. Like it's still interesting. It's going to be terrible.
He gets to eat an octopus.
Yeah.
Following that up, the man on the roof.
Yeah.
So why was the man there?
To kill himself, yeah. I think he also has a purple tie, too, which is interesting. I'm not exactly sure the meaning of that, to be honest. I mean, he's suicidal, obviously.
Definitely. But, I mean, they went through all this trouble to drop him on a roof, right? In a grass patch on a roof.
As one does.
And there just happens to be a guy there who's about to commit suicide. Like, there's got to be some more significance to why that person was there. Was he another person that was also a prisoner within this thing, within this prison?
No, I don't think so.
That was released at the same time? Or what was going on with that? I mean, it's just like, I know it's not like a really big question towards the movie, but was he just there to be used as a framing device? Or was there more significance to him as a character?
I think it's a good contrast to our main character, who is like at this point, he's attempted suicide multiple times, and even when he's trying to escape, he's like, if I get out of here and I die like trying to get out, like I don't give a shit because I'm still done with this. and him choosing, like him showing this guy who's like, you know, he also gives him the like one of the best lines in the movie where he's like, you know, even though I'm just a beast, like, do I not deserve to live? Like, he's like, yeah, he's choosing to live, and he's choosing to, like, you know, dedicate his life to hunting down and killing the, you know, the bastard who put him in. So I don't know. I think it's to show the difference. Like, this dude who's like, he's been suffering nonstop, but he's like, no, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to kill myself. I'm going to go do something about this, versus that guy who wants to kill himself for who knows what else. But I do love that moment that makes me laugh is when, after he tells his life story to this guy pretty much, and then he's like, well, the reason I want to kill myself is, and he just stands up and he's like, I don't give a shit. Sorry.
Spent 15 years locked up. He doesn't have time for this guy's story.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, that is that guy who does end up killing himself. He's the only character in this Revenge trilogy that shows up twice. He's in Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
The character is?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's probably something more to him in that movie.
Yeah, maybe he was just wrapping up a loose end.
Yeah.
the
Okay.
previous
So
one.
that makes sense.
Why
I
do you
didn't know
take the
that.
dog? Leave the dog out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, did he jump with the dog?
Yeah. You
I was
see him, he
more
has the
pissed about the dog. Yeah.
You see him with the dog when he lands. Although it's like very clearly like a stuffed animal, but that just made me laugh even more. I think he mentioned that this film can be viewed as a comedy, which is like
This movie is very goofy.
Yeah.
And it's parts of it are really funny. Obviously, as a whole, it's not what I'd traditionally call a comedy, but there are a lot of goofy moments in this movie, and thank God for that, because I think when something's this bleak, you do need at least a little bit of laughs, a few laughs sprinkled in.
Yes, please. There is like, as much as there is a misery porn that exists in film where sometimes someone's just like, isn't this sad? Isn't it all just supposed to be sad? And it's like, yes, but there's some more subtleties and complexities that can be woven into a story that can also be a tragedy. Yeah. And I feel like that's one thing I really do appreciate about Korean cinema, is that they do like to weave that in. Like, they're like, we're going to make you laugh either way, somehow in here, even if you don't expect it.
I think it's an important contrast to have in really depressing movies like this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the little villain, the Gold Tooth Man. He was hilarious.
He got fucked over and over again throughout this whole movie.
Yeah, but he was definitely a comedic character throughout this movie. So I could see, you look at those elements and you're like, yeah, those are comedic elements of this movie, right?
Yeah.
And what was the old saying? Comedy equals tragedy plus time.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 15 years.
Sounds like a science equation.
and there was also
the
theme of like, laugh and the world laughs with you, weep and you weep alone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, is it better to view this as a funny movie? Is it better to laugh at the shit that happens, or to be saddened by it?
I don't know. I mean, I think with time, we're cracking jokes about it, afterwards and everything. Yeah. It's like, but when you're feeling it in the moment, it's not funny, but you need a little time,
Mm-hmm.
It's an absurd plot.
It is.
That's what's great about it, though. It just goes off the rails.
But also, even though it's an absurd plot, it really doesn't feel like it breaks our sense of disbelief.
No, I mean, there are some surrealist elements woven throughout, like from when he wakes up on top of the roof, it's like he's in an open grass field, to when he has the ants crawling through his skin and everything. A lot of little moments like that kind of like
the daughter seeing the fucking giant ant on the subway.
Yeah,
that's an example of a funny scene.
Never mind.
I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, there's a few moments like that where you can tell that like Park Chan-wook's like surrealist like ideas kind of like peek through.
So, unfortunately, I do want to talk a little bit about Oldboy 2013. Directed by Spike Lee, who is not a bad filmmaker, by the way. He's made some very good movies.
Yes.
Apparently, he disowns this movie.
Good.
Yeah.
He also called it not a remake, but a reinterpretation or something, which is funny because I actually don't like. My problem with this is that it's not a reinterpretation. I think I said this in the beginning, and I'll say it again. 90% of this movie is just like poor imitation, and 10% of this movie is trying to do its own thing but failing horribly. Something I really want to touch on, because this is just what I mean by its poor reinterpretation. So in the original Oldboy, he eats nothing but the dumplings, right? Every day they deliver him the dumplings. In this movie, they also do that. He technically gets like a breakfast and a lunch, but dinner is always dumplings. But it's like in this Americanized version, wouldn't you want to change it to something like local to America?
Yeah, give him like a couple, what do you call them? Like those frozen burritos or some shit?
He actually does get frozen burritos for lunch.
Oh, okay.
But I'm saying for his...
Well, it would have to be a specific food that's like made someplace, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how he hunts down the location and everything.
And that's exactly what happens in this movie too, is he, finds the dumpling
Of
place.
course,
But
it's fucking dumplings.
But that's what I mean is like that's actually a line in the movie, by the way. He goes, "No, not dumplings. Of course it's dumplings." I just like, that's what I mean. There's so many details in this remake where it's like, why wouldn't you want to make this your own and give it a distinct idea?
Yeah, it should have been hot dogs.
Yeah.
Like sliders.
Actually, no, hot dogs would have been a really good one. Or like,
Sloppy Joe.
or
Sloppy
maybe
Joes.
like,
Bro, I could eat sloppy joes for 15 years straight. You
Fuck
shitting
no,
me?
no.
or
He died before you get out.
Disheveled Josephs.
have you guys ever seen those burgers where they actually brand the top of the bun?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. So it could have been something like that where it's like he got a couple sliders for dinner every night and they had the tops of their bun branded or something.
Yeah, but the point, that it could be something more like fitting for this completely different setting,
Yes,
right? Because
yes.
where does that film take place?
Somewhere in America. I don't even fucking know the city.
Okay.
Something else I want to talk about. Josh Brolin, much like Spike Lee, great actor. Spike Lee's a good filmmaker. Josh Brolin's a good actor. He's fucking bad in
Yeah,
this.
he is.
I showed Jason's seen it before, but I made him watch a clip, which is the climax of the movie, but the 2013 version. It's so awful. He's like on his knees going, "No, no, no!" It's bad.
Yeah. And also, Sharklow Copley, is that how you say his name?
Charlton Copley is the villain.
Yeah, he's also fucking terrible as
He's-
well.
It's a really odd casting
Oh,
the
wait,
choice.
South African guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great in District 9.
Yeah.
I saw him in the A-Team remake back in
Yeah.
2011.
Hardcore Henry as well.
Oh, yeah.
He's just a really weird
about that
choice. And like the way they even present him is very weird. I feel like a lot of what made Lee Woo Jin kind of interesting is he's like this handsome, well-dressed guy
Yeah.
who like should have a really important life, but instead he's just so focused on the revenge. Charlton Copley he looks like a weird psychopath in this movie. Like the goatee they give him, the way they do his hair, the way he's dressed. It's like he
It's
doesn't.
just not his look.
No.
Like his look has always been just like kind of gritty and weird, and like they're trying to make him look like this suave guy, and it just does not work.
It doesn't work.
It's got kind of like a chin strap beard. That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks fake.
Yeah, it does, like I'm looking at an image and it does seem very out of place. Like
Something I want to bring up too, because I feel like this kind of borderline ruins the core of the movie. So in the OG movie, the deal that Lee Woo Jin makes is more or less like, hey, if you figure this out, I'll kill myself, right? That's the whole thing. Mm-hmm. In the remake, and it's really important to note that in the original, the statute of limitations is already up. So basically, by the time the movie is really like gets going, there's really not like a worry about the police anymore for our main character. In this, Charlton Copley gives him this crazy deal where it's like, if you find out who I am and what I did, I will give you evidence that you didn't murder your wife so you can, live as a free man. I'll give you $20 million in diamonds and I'll kill myself. I feel like that ruins the core of the movie because I think in the original, one of the things I really like is that both characters are heading into this destroying themselves for like really no other reason than hatred. Mm-hmm. Because in the original, the statute of limitations was up. In theory, the main character in the original could have just walked away.
he does mention that he's a fugitive though.
But they also mentioned that the statute of limitations is up.
Okay.
Yeah.
At a certain
So
point.
So that happens when his daughter goes in to find out what happened to his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At that same time, he sends his daughter in to go ask, "Hey, what happened to my daughter?" And so that actually. Sorry, we're going back to the other movie real
you're
quick.
okay.
Fine.
But this is another reason why I was like, hey, maybe she does know. Did the information that she got from the lady, because she relayed the information to him, and that was the only time we heard it. We didn't actually hear the lady say anything about it, right? About who the parents were, right? Or what happened to his daughter.
I think Woo Jin would have
So
not let her find out the information.
Yes.
So no, but did she lie?
No.
Did she know and
think
did
so.
she lie?
I don't think so. I feel like, again, like Woo Jin is like, he's so far ahead of all of them that he wouldn't let that possibly slip by, because otherwise why would she not
I mean,
like relate that
had
information?
he already
you know?
gaslit her into wanting to bang her father?
Well, yeah, he had hypnotized them. Like he gave them hypnotic suggestions and everything. So
Yeah.
like, yes, but like at the same time, I don't know, because the emotional devastation of her finding out the truth is so heavily like prominent in the end, the finale, that I feel like if she already knew, it really kind of undermines that weight.
What
like,
would
a
he have
lot.
done if she had just like died in a car accident or something?
I don't know.
Like, do you think he'd just be like, fuck?
Yeah, you'd have just found another way to just like mentally torture this man.
I would have found his mom.
Oh my god. Back to
Made him
the,
forget his mom and then make some fucker.
Yeah, you
Back-
want to screw this older lady.
back to 2013. I want to talk about the ending really quick. So like I said, it's 90% basically bad imitation and 10% its own thing. So they do kind of mix up the ending a little bit. Instead of him having a relationship with the sister, it's their father. And then the father proceeds to basically murder the whole family out of shame because of the secret that gets out. But the father fucks up and doesn't kill Charlton Copley. He like survives. But this is the change up. This is, and
Terrible.
here's what I'm saying.
That's bad, just that.
But okay, here's the change up that I actually kind of like. It's just the execution is so poorly done. Instead of hypnotism, what they do instead is throughout the years, and in this version, it's 20 years for no real reason, as opposed to 15. Josh Brolin consistently watches this like crime show, kind of like America's Most Wanted. And he is on it several times. Like they do follow-up episodes. And that's how he essentially watches his daughter grow up on the TV screen. And like the last time he sees her, she's like, oh yeah, I don't understand why my father would do that, but I guess I'm open to forgive him. So when he gets to the Charlton Copley's penthouse at the end, it's revealed that Charlton Copley has been like basically producing this show. He has like an entire film studio underground where he makes a fake show to like feed him the idea that his daughter is still out there.
And a different person, I assume.
And a different person than, you know, Elizabeth Olsen, who's his daughter in the movie.
Scarlet Witch. Oh no.
I kind of like that idea. Like that's kind of if you were going to do a reimagination of this movie,
Sure.
that is a cool way to do it. It's just the execution's about like Jason, that last scene's bad, right?
Yeah, everything about it.
I made Jason watch it.
Even like the setting. What made them do it in that tiny little concrete box thing?
Yeah,
like
it's
it doesn't like
In the original,
Like the
they're in
finale?
that crazy
Yeah.
penthouse.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's such a great setting for the
There-
ending of the original.
There's those like green little like ponds that are like,
Yeah.
you know, on either side of them. It's great.
Here it just feels so sterile and uninteresting
Yeah,
looking.
they're just on the set. But you can't even tell they're like maybe if they had emphasized they're on the set where Charlton Copley's evil plan was hatching, like maybe that could have worked. But like in that last confrontation,
make it more
between them-
interesting looking.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
What, you don't like monochrome, like minimalism?
No, I
It's
don't.
the rage, you guys. Please
And just
take
that-
away all my color.
And Josh Brolin does not cut out his tongue. He just says
Yells
no.
no
He yells
over and over
no.
again.
Oh, that's so stupid.
He just yells no, and Charlton Copley's like, okay. That's literally what happened. Like Josh Brolin's like, kill me, and Charlton Copley's like, okay, and then he shoots himself, and it's really fucking dumb.
And also just the way it's shot in comparison, it's like it's just shot reverse shot. The original has so many like fun, but interesting
Fun.
and unique shots that are incredibly memorable. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you a single fucking shot from the remake. Like I knew shots from the original before I even watched it because it's just ubiquitous.
Ubiquitous.
Yes, that one. It's everywhere because they're so powerful.
Yeah.
And here it's just like boring and dumb.
And then the movie ends with, it has a different ending too. Basically, Elizabeth Olsen he like calls her and is like, "Oh, I'm never coming back. Bye." So it ends with her like driving off, and then he goes back to the prison and pays them the $20 million to lock him up for the rest of his life, basically. Which once again, like I said, not a terrible idea, like on paper, just in execution, it's so fucking stupid.
It kind of like a lot of it seems like it really sucks out the ambiguity and like horror of it, where it's like again, it's like, does he remember? Does he not? Is he really choosing to live with this thing? Why could he not just leave and, whatever? But like he chooses not to for so many reasons.
This movie takes out all the nuance of everything, basically.
That's terrible.
Yeah. Do you want to know who plays the golden teeth guy?
Who?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh my God.
I forgot that, dude.
Does he get his teeth ripped out?
No, he like slits his throat instead or something.
That's so stupid. So he doesn't lose a hand either, or does he?
No, he doesn't.
God, it's like they really just like took out all of the graphic shit. Wow. Is it like PG-13?
No, it's R. Oh, it's R. The most brutal death is Rami Malek is in one scene for some reason. Rami Malek's like works at the hotel as like a
He would have been a much better gold teeth guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he would have been.
He'd have been so slimy.
Rami Malek like works at the hotel that imprisons people.
And he's got a weirdo face too.
During the scene where Josh Brolin gets there, it just hard cuts to Rami Malek looking up and going, "What?" And then Josh Brolin like fucking bludgeons him to death. I don't know why the fuck he's in that one scene.
It seems like, because now I'm looking at the cast listing, it's just like typical of very like a lot of American remakes where they just like stuffed it full of like notable celebrities. And
I don't know if Rami Malek was that big yet. This is like 2013.
2013. I don't know when did
Mr. Robot was like 2015.
His big break was the Pacific. The Pacific.
Oh yeah, he was in
Very
the
good in the
Pacific. That was
Pacific.
like 2005.
No, 2010, I think.
Really? Oh shit, yeah, it was. Oh wow. Oh yeah. Anyway, we should definitely do a discussion comparing the Pacific and Band of Brothers someday.
I'd be down.
I'd be interested in that.
I like both. I think Band of Brothers is better.
I think it's like it's much better. But yeah. Anyway, no, it's like, but yeah, there's lots of like stars in here, like from Josh Brolin, Elizabeth Olsen, Sam Jackson, Michael Imperioli, Palm Callum Tioff. I can't pronounce her name. I'm sorry. There's just lots of people in here. Lance Reddick is in it. That's cool. Hannah Simone. It's like again, it's a very Americanized thing where they're like, well, we're gonna redo this like Korean movie, so what are we gonna do? I don't know. We got to put a bunch of stars in there, otherwise no one's gonna fucking watch it.
I do want to talk about one more scene because it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
During his captivity in the hotel, there's a subplot where he befriends a mouse, and then that mouse has like little mouse babies, and like, I should mention that in this remake, he's an alcoholic, and that's like a big part of the first half of the movie, which once again, not a bad idea, just poorly executed.
You could argue he's an alcoholic in the original.
Yeah. But like in this, they also give him, with every meal, he gets like a little fifth of like vodka. So like in the beginning of his imprisonment, there's a part where he's just like, he's like drunk as fuck, and he's like talking to the mouse, like, "Oh, I'm gonna protect you, my little mouse friend. Oh, I love you so much." And then like when he wakes up, the mouse is gone, and then like they bring him his lunch, and it's like cooked mouse. And then he's like, "No!" Like I said, it's just, I love Josh Brolin, but he's so fucking bad in this movie, and I don't know why.
Yeah,
He's
I
a
don't
good
think I've
actor.
ever seen him be bad in anything other
Except
than
for this. This is the one movie where it was just fucking awful. I do want to briefly say, could this have been good? Could there have been a good American remake of this?
So the question to
There
ask,
could have been a better one. I don't know if you could ever match the original.
Yeah.
So the question that I would ask first is, why would we remake this movie? Right?
Money.
I mean, other than money, because that's
of money.
That's the thing with remakes nowadays. They do a lot of these remakes for the sake of remaking the movie without looking for, hey, what can we improve or what can we do differently? How can we make this a movie worth watching, other than to maybe have it in higher definition or have better CGI or things like that.
It's I think we've talked about remakes before on here, and I feel like it's the same thing where it's like, if you're going to remake something, do something that has an interesting premise or an original idea or something that wasn't necessarily executed well the first time, or maybe things that were not possible to be done in the original that kind of limited the storytelling that now we're capable of. Then okay, fine. Then I'll take a chance on that.
Right.
Yeah, like Dune, like The Thing, like The Fly, like a lot of those, like those what we consider to be like the best remakes are usually done better because they were capable of more that they weren't necessarily in the original. And also the originals aren't necessarily like masterpieces like Oldboy, where it's like Oldboy was executed pretty much perfectly. It's like, how do you expect you're setting yourself up to be only doing a worse version of it?
Okay, but then
no matter what.
Then you look at things like A Star Is Born. How many remakes has A Star Is Born had?
Yeah, but like
right?
Star Born is not like amazing. Like
I'm not saying that it is.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, okay, they managed to have fairly decent remakes of A Star Is Born over time because it focuses on a different concept each time, because it uses modern music, it uses modern singers, and I think that's where it performs really well. But with this, I would say you got to look at it from the perspective of, hey, is there a way that we could change the story or interpret the story differently to bring something unique to the table? And if they figured that out, I think they could make a good movie.
I think they could have, because I also want to bring this up. Like, The Departed is a remake of, what is it, Infernal Affairs?
Yeah.
Which is
Internal Affairs, I think.
No, I think it's
it's
Infernal.
Affairs.
Oh,
the
Play
Hong
on
Kong movie.
words.
That's a Korean film, right?
No, I thought it was
Chinese.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Chinese.
Chinese. My apologies.
Hong Kong.
So I mean, like, international movies being remade for American audiences, they can work. The Departed's an amazing movie. And I think it could have been done. Like I said, I think if you put a very American flavor on this and do an adaptation that has some new ideas. Like I said, I actually kind of like the idea of the whole thing with the TV and the fake TV show. That's a cool idea, because like him watching the TV in the original is kind of a huge part of that movie, where it's the only thing that keeps him connected to, life, basically.
You think nowadays he'd have like a Netflix subscription?
He'd have like a Netflix. He makes him a fake Netflix.
they would probably just
It's a
give him
little sad
Tubi.
face like Avatar.
They would probably just give him a Tubi subscription.
Yeah.
Not a full Netflix subscription.
Yeah,
Unless
right.
it was a Netflix remake, then they would.
He's like, Tubi? You have all the subscription services, you give me Tubi?
Or what's that bad one we used the other week? Plex.
Oh, Plex. Yeah.
Just,
That's how I had to watch
cheapest
fucking
one.
Steve Jobs.
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 I think if anything, this remake was done 10 years too early with all like the wrong intentions, I think,
Yeah.
too. But like, if they were to remake it today, they could actually, I think, maybe follow the manga more closely to where it's more serialized. They could have done like a series, like where it's like it's a more of investigative, like long-term thing where this slowly unfolding, like, plot, and there's a lot more characters you can interweave in it. But it would be a very different story.
It would be
Yeah,
very
now that I
suited to a
know
miniseries.
that the manga is different from the original movie,
Yeah.
like, why not just make the manga?
Yeah,
Like, make
right?
it like
It's totally different, but it's close enough that you get that name recognition and you get the prestige, or you get the actual like added like audience of people coming in to be like, oh, it's like Oldboy, but it's based off of the manga. So you get the forgiveness, I think, of the audience way more than coming
also
to this.
a little more understandable. Like, it would make more sense for the movie to be made in that way.
Yeah, and it's just like, it could be a very different kind of story, and no one's coming in with their hands on their hips like, well, let's watch this now. Like, like if it's going to stack up to arguably one of the greatest movies made, that's like, how are you going to do that? It's like, hey, let's remake Lawrence of Arabia or something. Like, what? Why?
That's a very good point you make.
I'm excited for Spike Lee's Lawrence of Arabia next week.
Oh, God.
It's like, do you ever watch the remake of Psycho?
No, it's supposed to be a
Yes.
shot-for-shot remake, though.
Yeah.
Right?
The only thing
Gus Van Sant.
that's
I think, directed.
yeah. The only interesting thing about that is they tried to add in certain shots that Hitchcock had wanted to do, but they literally couldn't do because of the filmmaking technology at the time. So there's that, I guess, but it's still like horribly cast, and like it's just
Vince
not
Vaughn,
Vince
worth it.
right?
Vaughn, yeah.
Interesting.
No, it's terrible. It's
And Viggo
terrible.
Mortensen's in it.
Is he?
Yeah, he's
Who's he
in
play?
it. I think he plays a cop.
Is he like the private detective who's like
Yeah.
chasing her down and stuff? It's a mess, but it's like it's one of those where it's like, again, if you're gonna do a shot for shot remake, it's if anything that's more like a I don't know, like a film school like practice thing you would do for like students rather than like trying to like, you know, for any actual audience that would want to watch that. I think it was in color too, wasn't it?
Yes.
Is also dumb.
I will say sometimes though, some black and white movies, remaking them shot for shot in color could work. It's just you have to pick the right movie.
Yeah.
You know, and if you've got an 8mm camera, right?
Yeah.
You know, like one of those old school cameras, and you've got a movie that's got a good story, right? The shots are good, but just the technology in terms of the camera, because it was so much older, doesn't hold up. Then okay, I could see you doing a shot for shot remake in that example where you're basically just using the original movie as your storyboard.
Yeah. But then even then it's like, why not just watch the original?
Yeah. I mean, everything's a product of its own time.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know, if someone made like a really high quality new version of like Stairway to Heaven, I don't think it would be, you know, as good. It would feel more sterile. It wouldn't feel right. You know,
But that happens all the time where artists.
yeah, and there's a
basically
reason why
remake
the
songs.
original is
Yeah.
the only one anyone ever listens to.
No, that's not always the case. I'm trying to think of them, but there's been a couple songs where the original song gets left in the background.
1985.
Yeah,
Remade a month later.
Dude, that is so fucked up.
We could talk about that for 2 seconds. It's a
Okay,
really
yeah,
funny.
yeah, let's do it,
When
yeah.
the fuck else is that going to come up?
yeah.
Jason, you should explain it because you explained it very funny.
So there's a song written by, what was the original band?
SR71,
1985. Who do you think wrote that song? Who do you think? Like,
I don't know.
okay. Do you know?
I don't.
Oh, Bowling for Soup covered it like a month after it came out.
And that's the song. That,
hit the wall.
yeah,
Yeah.
everybody thinks of Bowling for Soup. That's the song you think of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's fucked up.
But yeah, they covered it a month after or something. That's insanity.
That is.
And if you go
really
on
fucked
Spotify, I feel bad. You go on Spotify and you look up SR. What are they called, Jason?
SR71.
See, I don't even know what the fuck they're called.
Yeah, SR71.
You look up SR71 on Spotify. 1985 literally says 1985 parentheses the original
yeah,
version.
if you look up their Wikipedia, it says something like, you know, the band name best known for like this one song, and then 1985 covered by Bowling for Soup.
They're best
and then-
known by for a cover of their song.
So then there's other ones like sorry, I thought of one to mention. So the song is Sound of Silence. When you think of the Sound of Silence, do you think of Simon and Garfunkel or do you think of Disturbed?
Simon and Garfunkel.
Simon and Garfunkel.
Okay, well,
Who the fuck thinks of the Disturbed version?
it's one of the greatest Christmas songs of all time. What?
I tried never to think of the Disturbed.
The Sound of Silence? No, their version is superior.
I don't
You
even know
think
if I
that
ever
the
heard
Disturbed
that one.
version?
Here's a better one.
It
Here's
sounds
a better
like a
one.
Christmas
Fucking Disturbed.
I get what you're saying, and it does happen occasionally.
Yeah.
Like Hurt.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
there you
most
go.
people
That's
think
a
of
good
Johnny
one. Yeah.
Cash.
Yes,
That is
yeah.
But I
True.
think for the most part, you typically listen to the original. And
it depends,
like
yeah.
as I've
Yeah.
I honestly think the Nine Inch Nails version of Hurt is better. But
I agree.
but the Johnny Cash one is the most known.
It's funny. I saw this interview where Trent Reznor was talking about Hurt in particular because he was like, it was such a deeply personal song. It was like about his pain and everything, of course. And he says to hear it through somebody else's like lens and like how they interpret it, like, you know, and especially like a legend like Johnny Cash, he's like, he had so many conflicting emotions and everything, but it's also like, he's like, man, this song in like particular, like being the song, but like it's with Johnny Cash, it also carries tons of weight with it. And I think that's how you can get away with it, is you better be a damn good artist to be able to like cover someone else's fantastic song. Like I think All Along the Watchtower, that's Jimi Hendrix is what you think of it, but I think that was a Bob Dylan song originally. So that's a
Fucking Disturbed.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna make you listen to this song later. It's actually pretty
I've
good.
listened to it. I just don't think anyone on the planet associates that song with Disturbed over Simon and
Of all the
Garfunkel.
examples, that's like the funniest one that you could have possibly come up with.
Oh yes, Sound of Silence, the famous song by Disturbed. Could you imagine if fucking what's that movie called? The Graduate used the Disturbed version.
Oh god.
They're missing out, dude.
Can
Yeah.
somebody please
Re-edit it?
Re-edit The Graduate to use the Disturbed version?
No, better yet,
instead of
let's remake that movie and then use the
Shot for
Disturbed version.
shot
shot for shot.
And instead of Simon and Garfunkel doing the soundtrack,
with Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn. He's way too fucking
yeah,
old.
as old as he is now, yeah, as the main character.
Sorry, we had some technical difficulties, a car alarm, so I think we were talking about Simon and Garfunkel maybe.
Yeah, and then
remaking The Graduate.
Yeah.
with old ass Vince Vaughn as as the main character who just graduated high school or going to college.
Samuel L. Jackson could be Mrs. Robinson. Why
I
not?
think Remy Malek would be better.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah, and give him a chin strap beard. You know.
Well, I mean, we
Do we have
we
anything
could
else
do
to
that.
say?
I think that's kind of all we have to say about the remake. I don't know.
Anything they want to say about the OG before we give our ratings?
I thought it was a really good Korean movie. Of the Korean movies that I've watched,
It's just a movie.
what?
It's just a movie.
Okay, no, it's a really good movie, but it's I had a bias against Korean films because the ones that you guys have showed me in the past have not lived up to the hype, in my opinion. This one, I think, really did, and it actually exceeded what I thought it was going to be, and I was very happy about that. That's all I was trying to say.
Okay. I'll just say it's a fantastic movie. I watched it for the first time like 10 years ago. I don't even remember, but like I watched it then. I really liked it. I haven't watched it since then. Now rewatching it in my 30s, I don't know. It's fantastic. It holds up. It's a great movie, and yeah, and what we're like nearly like the 20th year anniversary, aren't we? It's like
So the release that I got,
21 years. It's
2003.
been 21
yeah.
years. Yeah.
So
20,
the
damn,
release
yeah.
I got was a
Idiot.
20-year special release.
Yeah,
I
and it came
see.
out last year, right?
Yeah, last year. Yeah.
Along with Napoleon Dynamite, 20 years. You know, there's a lot of
Wow.
parallels
Very
here.
similar movies in
Yeah.
a lot of ways.
But yeah, I don't know. I even feel weird rating it just because it's one of those like classic films, but just very good. Watch it. You know, if you haven't and you listen to this, you shouldn't have done that. But still, watch it anyway.
So, should you guys want to go through our ratings? Miles?
Yeah, so this one gets put in the museum for me, and I'm happy about that because I don't know. I'm glad I enjoyed this film. I've had too many films that I've watched recently that I have not enjoyed, so I'm glad that I really enjoyed this one.
I want to watch a movie where you're not glad you enjoyed it.
Where I'm just angry.
Yeah,
I
I'm
can't
like,
believe I like this shit.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Jason?
Yeah, I'd also put it in the museum. It's again, it's not my favorite movie I've ever watched.
Why not? Fun for the whole family.
It's just so unbearably miserable, but it is just really fucking good. I probably do not want to watch this again for a very long time, but I do want to give it a rewatch at some point just because of how good it is. So yeah, museum.
Ronald?
I think, yeah, well, like what Jason said is probably the reason why I didn't watch it for so long. And I think it really harkens to like what the director said, like where he said he wanted to make something that felt too real in a film that felt physical and not just emotional, and that the audience would feel very tired when finishing it. So, because
Yeah.
I definitely felt that way. And it's one of those movies that it's like, man, this is brilliant and great. And maybe I won't wait as long to rewatch it, but yeah, I'm not rushing back to watch it, but by no means does that mean it's not good. It's a classic for all the right reasons. It's, museum. Get in there.
It's very good. It's also been like 10 years since I've seen it or something like that. Very good. Very influential. You see its influence in a lot of movies today, I think. Especially like the hallway fight scene that it basically invented. I'm putting it on the shelf. I'm just kidding. I'll put it in the fucking museum.
See, I don't even know what that rating means.
That's like
On the shelf.
that means you'll buy it, so it's pretty good.
I thought we were saying like shit
I know,
bucket
I
at the
know, I
bottom
know.
on the shelf.
I was
is, like, at
using
the
our
top,
old
and then-
rating system
okay.
to make a joke.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, we could.
We're keeping shit bucket and we're keeping museum, and everything else is a numbered fucking thing, I guess.
It doesn't.
It doesn't have to be. You can rate these however you feel like rating
Yeah,
them.
I
don't
feel
think
like-
we've got like a distinct number system or rating system.
Not that I want this to be discussion every time we do an episode, but I feel like I like the idea of just saying like either I think you should watch it or avoid it, or also like, you know, it please, I think it's a shit bucket thing, or I fucking love it and then watch it at the museum.
Yeah,
I
don't
think we
know.
should
Yeah.
just never have a solid rating system. It's kind of fun.
Exactly. It's more fun that way because then you don't actually
The
know what we
rating,
think.
by the way,
Yeah.
in film criticism, the actual rating itself is always the most boring part of something.
Yeah.
Because the rating is never like what's important. It's what the person who's talking about the movie has to say about it. I feel like the giving it a number feels very arbitrary sometimes.
Yeah.
And like 'cause sometimes, you know, I'll rate fucking something on Letterboxd not super high, but have a lot of good things to say about it. And it's like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like the rating system more often than not just feels like it's like a triggering point for people to like just get angry about. So maybe we should do it just to get more engagement, but I don't know. I don't really want.
Oh, you only gave Oldboy a 9, you heathen.
Yeah, it's like that's a 10 out of 10. It's like okay, well, yeah, you know, whatever.
All right.
Okay.
I think that's a wrap. Thank you for listening. You have a great Christmas, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye.
Bye.